The NFC North is one of the strongest divisions in the NFC, let alone in the entire NFL. Bolstered up by the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. There's a lot to break down. There's a lot to discuss. What we're going to do is we're going to walk through the bear case and the bull case for each one of these teams, kind of give our ceiling and our floor for each team heading into the 2024 season. Go through some win totals and the odds to win the division and kind of give our take on how we think the NFC North is going to shape ahead of this season. So before we do that, man, Brendan, how are we doing?
I'm great, man. It's college game week for the Tennessee Vols and for everyone else out there, and one more week until the NFL goes live. But hey, we got college ball this week, so I'm really excited. I love this division. It's awesome.
It really is.
I can't wait to talk about it.
It really is, and especially with some of the teams in this division back up on the mend, with their arrow pointing up is really what makes it so exciting, because there for a while this division was a bit mundane in a way, and so I'm really excited about it. There's a ton of young talent littered all through this division. There's going to be plenty to talk about. There's almost a wide variety of outcomes this year as you look into the 2024 projections specifically for these four teams. It's not as set in stone as what it used to be. It's not as easy to predict or project this season. So pretty exciting stuff. Before we get into the show is brought to you by Not Beer, American sparkling water. It is never a bad time to have a Not Beer. It's the perfect summer refreshment, especially as you head into tailgate season. You can drink it outright, or you can mix it with whatever you want. It's pretty amazing. Make sure to check out the links in the comments below for a store locator, or if you just want to have it shipped directly to your door, there's an Amazon link as well. So make sure to get yourself some Not Beer. Okay, we're going to start the show off with the Green Bay Packers because, in my opinion, I know that some people read too far in between the lines with who we start with in these division by division breakdowns. But starting with the Packers, this team has so much momentum heading into the 2024 season. They had a couple of losses last year. Two of the biggest ones were Aaron Jones at running back, of course, and then Darnell Savage on the defensive side of the ball. They added Josh Jacobs to basically replace and backfill with Aaron Jones. We did see A.J. Dillon go on the IR, but nonetheless, they also drafted Marshawn Lloyd at the running back position. So this team is inherently going to be the same as what we saw last year, both from a player personnel and a coaching personnel wise. So tons of momentum for this team heading into 2024. You can't not talk about this team and its momentum without talking about Jordan Love, who had an absolute field day against the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs last year. He almost brought down the San Francisco 49ers in the playoffs, but fell just short. I think that this team is so exciting to talk about because of the range of outcomes that this team yields. It's truly amazing what we saw in the progression of Jordan Love from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And I think if he can continue that progression and hold up that same style of play that he had at the end of last year, really the sky's the limit for this team. You can easily make an argument for the first seed if we see that continued play out of Jordan Love. But before I get into the rest of my takes, the win totals and what the model has to say about the Packers 2024 season, Beach, gut feeling for the Packers heading into this season. Are you high on them? Are you low on them? Do you love them as much as I do? Well, let me know what your thoughts are.
Look, dude, Jordan Love slings that tater all across the field all the time. And It is beautiful to watch. He's returning pretty much all of his core guys, all of his receivers, young, talented receivers. He can go anywhere he wants to. And then the addition of Josh Jacobs, their offensive line is pretty solid. And if they are able to establish a good run to the point where they'll be able to throw whenever, I think that the sky's the limit with this team. They always have a pretty good defense. I think they returned pretty much all the same guys from last year. And it's just a really exciting team to watch up in Green Bay. And I really think the sky's the limit with this team. They can beat anybody any day.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about the breakdown, like the total composition of this team, both from an offensive perspective and a defense perspective. On the defensive side of the ball, they had a lot of like good spots and a lot of bad spots, of course. Jair Alexander was not necessarily a player that he has been in recent memory. He could return to form and be that lockdown corner that he needs to be. Still a great player nonetheless. I don't want to bash him. It's not like he was horrible last season, but just not the same player that he has shown in previous memory. But this defense is going to be strong nonetheless. The linebacker position is going to be a bit iffy. You know, they're headed up by Quay Walker. But the interior and the edge of the line, defensive line, is going to be strong nonetheless. A bunch of guys that I think are some dogs. But let's talk about what people are most interested in, the offensive side of the ball. And that's where we see this slew of wide receivers, which is kind of hard to make out what this offense is going to look like, because you have guys like Jaden Reed, who had a breakout season last year. You guys have Christian Watson, who has so much potential, and he's had so much hype surrounding him, but he just hasn't met the criteria of what everybody has coined him to be. You guys you have Romeo Dobbs, who may not be a game breaker in a way, but he always seems to be on the field in the most important scenarios. So it seems like the coaches really trust Dobbs on the field. And then you have guys like Dontavian Wicks, who I think is a stud. I think he's going to be their kind of game breaker. You know, he may have one catch, but it could be for 70 yards and a touchdown at any given moment. And then, of course, Bo Melton and Malik Health also on standby. You also have two younger tight ends, and Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. Musgrave couldn't keep healthy, so he was off the field for quite a bit, but nonetheless, he could be healthy and come in and make an impact. But we also saw Tucker Kraft is perfectly well and capable of handling the workload at tight end as well. But now, we mentioned something about the running back position. I think Josh Jacobs is in line for 300 to 400 touches this year. It is not out of the realm of possibility. We've seen A.J. Dillon go down on IR. He's not going to take up that 40 to 50% role that he had with Aaron Jones last year. Marshawn Lloyd, he has that hip injury. There was also some rumors about him potentially going on IR as well. Now, I can see him being a factor like in the second half of the season, but Josh Jacobs, I think he's going to have a career year and playing in the best offense that he's ever played, getting the most touches that he may ever have seen before as well. My concern, Beach, is the schedule with this team. The Packers have 11 games this season in which teams last year finished above 500. So they're playing. I know a lot of people look at win percentage and are like, you can't really use that. But for most metrics, their schedule is relatively tough. I would say it's like top 12 in terms of difficulty. But with that being said, I think this team is well-rounded enough. I really trust the coaching staff, aka Matt LaFleur, in his play calling and decision-making. And I think Jordan Love, with his ability or with the way he was playing last year, and if he continues to progress, I think this team is in double-digit wins. They're currently sitting at a consensus win total around 9.5. I think they easily get 10 plus wins. Am I crazy?
Schedule doesn't matter. They're winning 10 games or more. Schedule doesn't matter. This team is so good, and their depth is just sickening. Like, even if Christian Watson goes down, enter Dontavian Wicks. Someone else goes down, enter Bo Melton. Is fine. Totally fine. Tight end goes down, enter the other one. Now, if Josh Jacobs goes down, that could be an issue. But I feel like they're going to ride him until they can't anymore. They shouldn't. They need to elongate his season, but if he's able to stay healthy, dude, I mean, pretty even like pass to run ratio, and I think that they're going to surprise a lot of guys, get a lot of big plays, and 10 wins is easy.
I agree, and their schedule is hard, but the reason I say that too is looking at the meat of the schedule is really where it gets hard. 3 games before their bye and 3 games after, maybe 4. But they play week 7. They go Houston at home, Jacksonville away, Detroit at home, bye week, going to Chicago to play Chicago, San Francisco at home, Miami at home. Now, the reason that's a tough schedule, of course, but most of those, especially the toughest ones, are at home.
They win 4.
And I mean, can we say Lambeau is a top 3 home field advantage? I would put it in there, with like Arrowhead.
What time of year is that?
It's dead middle of the season. It's like
Okay.
week 10 is their bye, and then they have 3 games before and 3 games after what I just
Is
read
that
off.
in November or is it October? I mean, the like Miami coming up, is Miami away?
It'd be late October and early November.
Yeah, I mean,
Miami would be in November, yes.
Okay, but that's at home.
That's at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think that plays a huge factor, honestly.
So I think so too. And I mean, if you're looking at the odds to win the division, the Lions are the like really consensus favorite at plus 130. Depending on what book you're looking at, you can find like plus 110 on books like Caesars. But man, dude, I am heavy into this Packers team solely because of the potential of what Jordan Love is capable of doing. And I think that the play caller and Matt LaFleur puts his team up with anybody. And now my concern is their co-part in Detroit, because again, you talk about offense and defense. Well, I think Detroit's defense is better than Green Bay's. I think their offense is just as good, if not better than Green Bay's right now. I certainly think Green Bay can elevate themselves over Detroit, but it's hard for me to believe that just looking purely from a player personnel perspective and even a coaching perspective, I think Ben Johnson is one of the greatest minds in the league, but this is really going to be a race between the Packers and the Lions, in my opinion. So I really do have high hopes for the Green Bay Packers. I think they exceed their win total of 9.5. Now, do I think that I'm actually picking them to win the division. It's more of my bold projection this year, but my ceiling for them, I think, is a 1 seed in the NFC, just because of, the teams that they have to go by are what the Lions, the 49ers, and the Eagles. If they can like somehow skate by, I think they really could, because one, you're going to have the Eagles and the Cowboys bang each other up, and then the 49ers are the 49ers. But, I think it's possible. I think it's very possible. I think a ceiling for them is a 1 seed in this year's playoffs. Now, I think a floor is something like 8 wins. They struggle on the defensive side of the ball. Jordan Love regresses from where we saw him at the peak of the year last year. And they don't find really a rhythm with some of these younger guys at receiver. But I'm very much more bullish than I am bearish on this team. What do you think?
Yeah, I like a ceiling of 13 wins, and I like the floor of 8, but I just don't see them only. That would put them under 500. And I just don't see that. I just don't see that. Okay, fine. My floor is 9. And if that's the case, then the over's got to go. If we're thinking the floor is only a half game lower than the over-under.
Yeah. So now we just had that full conversation. Let's pivot to the Lions. Now that we're talking about the Lions, one of the most well-rounded teams in the NFL, led by Dan Campbell and then offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. If you look at the offensive side of the ball, they have Jared Goff obviously leading the pack. They have Amon-Ra. They have Jamison Williams at the receiver. And then they have a 1-2 punch in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And then they have one of the best offensive lines in the entire league, led by Penei Sewell, who just got a big old contract extension. And then of course you have Portman, arguably one of the best tight ends in the league play-wise right now. Obviously, I don't want to piss anybody off by saying that, but nonetheless, and then you flip it over on the defensive side of the ball, and they're just as strong. They have great players. They have dudes that love to play, especially for their coach Dan Campbell. He's just a player's dude. And then this team is just only like continuing to build off of their success year after year, it seems like. So the Lions have the edge here, I think, in terms of being the most well-rounded team. I really have high expectations for them as well. But in a way, I just think that the Packers could find a way around them. But let's talk about the Lions. Beach, before I get into the numbers, projections, yada, 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 what is your thoughts about the Lions heading into 2024? Are you bearish, bullish? Are you high or low? What's your kind of gut feeling here?
My thoughts is this is the last year that they've got a chance.
Really?
I think this team can win the Super Bowl, but I don't think that they're going to be able to. Ben Johnson almost left last year in the offseason. I don't think they're going to be able to hold on to him again. he's going to be like with the season that I think they're going to put up, he will be very highly coveted, like head coaching job, like to a bad team or whatever. And I don't like, if it was me, I wouldn't leave because I would try to win it. I would try to win a bowl there. But I think this is their last year with Ben Johnson, who is just, I mean, I'm not a tape bro, but just watching tape bros talk about it and the space that it creates for Jared Goff to throw to open receivers is ridiculous. The one thing I do want to say is that, last year their biggest weakness was their secondary, and they did address that heavy in the draft with Terrion Arnold and Enos Rakestraw, I think is his name, and I think he went to Missouri, but I might be wrong. But Terrion Arnold in the first round and Rakestraw in the second, and then they got Carlton Davis also, and so they addressed that. And if those rookies can play well and Carlton Davis can play well, defense is more secure on the back end. I mean, they play in like 11 dome games or something like that. Like,
dude, they play in a lot of dome games.
They're just going to eat. They're just going to eat. And this team could win the Super Bowl, and I want them to. And that will be my pick for this year. Is going to be the Lions. But my cousins are from Detroit, okay? They're all big Lions fans, so I can claim that. I'm allowed to claim that, so I will. And that's all.
Yeah, I want to correct you there because the dome game is insane. They play 14 dome games.
14 is crazy.
14 dome games.
Crazy. That's only 3 non-dome games. This is insane.
Yeah. So that is absolutely absurd. Yeah. We know Jared Goff has a massive cock in domes.
Sorry.
All right. The offense is going to be just as good as last year, if not even better. Jared Goff is more comfortable in this offense than ever, led by Ben Johnson, the play caller. Jahmyr Gibbs, he came onto the scene last year as a rookie. He's going to have even more elevated role in this offense. David Montgomery is just like a stable rock in that backfield. Dude that can pound the rock, and he's a trusted guy in that offense. And then, again, the wide receivers, dynamic. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams. They got Khalif Raymond. And then Portman.
Did they just sign Tim Patrick? Did I see that correctly? They did sign
Tim Patrick, and I'm sure he's going to be elevated. One of their losses was Josh Reynolds. I think he was actually a key guy, even though, many don't recognize his name or would never consider so, but he was good in pass blocking. He was great at wind sprints as well. Those guys are important, believe it or not. But they also lost Bruce Irvin and CJ Gardner-Johnson on the defensive side of the ball, as well as Cam Sutton. But again, this defense is going to be strong. I mean, really strong. They still have Brian Branch and Carlton Davis and Terrion Arnold at the cornerback position. And then Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell. Anzalone is a dog. Aiden Hutchinson leads the defensive line, So their projected win total is 10.5 right now. They're plus 130 consensus to win the division. 14 dome games, by the way. My only counter argument is kind of the same concept to what we saw, or what I mentioned with the Packers, is they do have a tough schedule. Depending on what you look at, it's between the 8th to 12th toughest schedule in the league. Again, depending on how you scale and adjust for strength of schedule. And one thing is, I mentioned that they play in 14 dome games, which is huge for this offense. They overperform in dome games, but their away games kind of seem to be their tougher games. Especially if I just read their away games, they play Dallas in Dallas. They play Green Bay in Green Bay, of course. It's a divisional game. Then they go to Houston and play Houston.
Dome.
That's Dome, but it's in Houston.
So it's Dallas, Dome.
And then they play the Colts at home, so we'll see how that shakes out. And then they play Chicago at Chicago later in the season, and they play the 49ers at 49ers.
That could be tough.
So I kind of see a few losses here and there, but even then, that's like 3 or 4. And assuming if they can win most of their home games, I mean, double digits is in sight. Now the question is, do they get 11 to 12? I like to think so. I think this Detroit Lions team has showed no signs of slowing down. Everybody's back healthy. Everybody's ready to rock. Jared Goff is comfortable in this offense. Ben Johnson can call it game after game after game. And Dan Campbell is one of the best coaches in the league, in my opinion, right now. Maybe not from an X's and O's perspective, but from just rallying his troops around him. Nobody does it better. He kind of reminds me of Mike Vrabel, just with actual talent on his team. So, dude, again, 1 seed in the NFC for the Lions for me, and then Super Bowl contender, in my opinion here. I think that's kind of what the edge for me with the Lions and the Packers is. It's going to be razor thin between these teams, but I think the Lions are built more for making a push in the playoffs and making it to the big game. I just think that they're better constructed from a roster perspective and from a personnel perspective. But both teams are just so strong, and I think it's going to be very top heavy, especially in the first half of the year, while Caleb Williams and Sam Darnold settle into their new offenses. So, love the Lions this year, man. My bear case for this team is that people kind of figured them out. They are a little bit skinny at the wide receiver position, so if one of their wide receivers goes down, I am concerned. Because if you think about it, like if Amon-Ra goes down, they're left with Jamison Williams, Khalif Raymond, and Tim Patrick. And I'm not seeing, maybe they can make it work. I'm sure they could with Portman and the 2 dynamic running backs. But if Amon-Ra St. Brown goes down, it's going to be some tough sledding for the passing game. And they're going to really have to lean into their run game as well as their defense. So, but of course, we're picking hairs here with talking about injuries heading into the season. You can't really do that, but with the players that are healthy right now, they are absolutely a top 5 team in the NFL.
Even so, Amon-Ra played with a torn oblique for like 5 games.
Yeah.
So if he broke his neck, he'd still be out there on the field. But that is a concern if that were to happen. However, I think that Ben Johnson will be able to scheme out wins without him if that was the case.
Yeah.
So, and I want to mention that if Jared Goff goes down, fear not, Hendo Cinco's back up. So, just saying.
Yeah, I wanted to. I forgot to give my model projection for Packers. Packers had 10.1. Scarlett had the Packers having 10.1 wins. The model has the Lions with 11.2 wins.
Mm-hmm.
So, really one win ahead of consensus estimated. Strong season ahead for the Lions from a statistical perspective as well as we look at the model projections. I really like both teams here.
It's just a shame. It's just a shame that one of them is going to be a wild card team.
I know. It's like,
sucks.
And it's going to be like the Packers last year. They're going to go in. Dallas was not excited to play the Packers. They absolutely shredded them.
It was pretty awesome.
Shredded them. So
typical Dallas.
Whichever team is hosting Green Bay in the playoffs as a wild card, or even the Lions. Like if Green Bay somehow inks out a division, the NFC North, somebody has to host the Lions. That is insane.
I'm done with the 49ers winning. I'm cool with a Packers-Lions. I don't even know what the game's called now. Whatever. The NFC Championship game. Don't remember what it's called. That's what I'm looking for.
That would be something. Unfortunately, I think the 49ers are going to be pretty good.
Probably.
But
let's move on.
All right. Hey, before we move on to the Vikings, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and then comment what you think is going to happen in this division, who you think is going to win over their win total, who's going to go under their win total, who you think is going to win the division, all that. We love scanning the comments for that information. It's always colorful and fun. So, nevertheless, please make sure to do that. We appreciate you guys as always. We're gearing up for the regular season, and next week, you better believe Brendan and I will be here for a big game breakdown and model projections and our best bets for every game. So, we had an up and down season last year, but we inked out barely in the green. So, again, we're here for a good time, not for a long time. We just love talking ball. So, make sure to tune in for that as well. So, Vikings. Tough sledding for the Vikings this year, dude. The season hasn't even started, and I feel like they've already lost half of their team. JJ McCarthy is kind of big storyline right now with him going out for the season with a knee injury. And then you have poor team already, like they lost a rookie in the offseason as well. You really feel for this team. They nothing is going right. Murphy's Law is in full effect. It really just could not be worse for this team, but nonetheless, we're going to break them down. I still actually think they can make a splash a little bit with Sam Darnold at the helm, but man, I tell you what, it is absolutely going to be an uphill climb for this team. So, before I hand it over to Beej real quick, I do want to talk about their losses because this is one of the teams that they went, ton of losses in this offseason with a ton of additions. So a lot of new faces on this team, nonetheless. They did lose Kirk Cousins. So again, they drafted JJ McCarthy. We already mentioned he got hurt. So Sam Darnold will be the starter. They lost KJ Osborne. They lost Alexander Madison and Daniel Hunter on the defense side of the ball, as well as Marcus Davenport. Here are the guys that they did bring in. Aaron Jones. We already mentioned Sam Darnold. Trent Sherfield. Robert Tonyan, tight end. Shaquille Griffin. And really, those are the important ones. They also brought in a slew of other guys. And then
Robert Grenard.
Yeah. And then, of course, they had the draft. So, I don't even know where to begin with this team. Beej,
I can start.
Are you optimistic or are you pessimistic about this team? Because this is going to be quite the year for the Vikings, just trying to put the puzzle pieces together and just make sure things make it, really. What do you think?
Yeah, this team finishes under 500, no doubt, but it's going to be really fun to watch it either way. Shootout potential all the time. This defense will not be able to perform well. So now I want to just start out with this. You're not, brethren. Sammy D is here to play, and he is going to be just fine. Just hear me out, okay? He started with the Jets, right? Dog shit team. Terrible. He goes to the Panthers. A little better. Still dog shit team. Then he goes and is backup for 49ers. And watch that a little bit. Gain a little insight. Now he's on a team with Kevin O'Connell, who always shows that he can get the best out of his players on the offensive side. And he's got Jay Jettis. And he's got Addison. He's got Tonyan before Hockenson comes back. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine on the offensive side. They just won't win a lot of games. But it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be rough. It's fun. It's crazy though, because I'm a big believer in Kevin O'Connell. Regardless of what even happens this year, or what has happened in the past, I do think he's a great offensive mind. I think he's kind of in a tough situation, just with everything going on from a player, personnel wise, and roster construction standpoint. It's just been absolutely brutal for this team. So I do think, like you said, there's going to be some exciting losses and some ugly wins, just given the nature of this team, because we're not going to dance around it. They still have playmakers. They have the best wide receiver in the game, arguably the best wide receiver in the game, and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. It looks like Jordan Addison, the lawsuit's not going to happen anytime soon, so he'll be ready to go, at least for the first half of the season. So you have one of the top, most dynamic wide receiver duos in the league in those two. Then you have TJ Hockenson, who will eventually come back. I don't know if he's, going to come back earlier in the season, halfway through the season, or what. But and as well as a really solid 1-2 punch in the backfield in Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler. So these guys can scrap. Now, again, we know how important the quarterback position is. It'll really hinge on Sam Darnold. Now, Sam Darnold has a chance to do one of the funniest things ever and actually live up to the potential of what everybody expected him to be. I think people forget he was one of the top prospects coming out of college, out of USC, into the NFL, and I think the Jets kind of ruined him, as well as the Panthers.
They did that to a lot of players.
If you look at his previous teams, they blew in every which way. They were poor rosters, poor coaching, poor franchises, just horrible all around. So this might actually be he played with the 49ers, so that was the best environment. But as a starter, this is the best environment that Sam Darnold will be in. So we do have the minimal slight chance that we see this revival of Sam Darnold. But, even with that, even with the thinking of that as like the bear case, I still see like 9 wins as my ceiling for this Vikings team. Now their win total is like 7.5, 6.5, depending on what book you look at. And of course, they do have the lowest odds to win the division at 10-1. The model has them at 5.9 wins. So I'm actually under on the win total of 7.5. I wouldn't really flirt with it if you're getting 6.5 on some books. But this defense is also in really, really bad shape. They need to really put a lot together. I don't expect this team to come out of the gates and win a lot of games. Quite frankly, if we're just speaking open and honestly, I only have 3 games out of my model projections that they are favored, they have a greater than 50% chance to win. And that's the home opener against the Giants, and then a home game against the Cardinals where they're barely above 50% to win that game. So I'm down on this team, especially from a statistical perspective.
I'm more optimistic than you, but I just don't think that I think the under as well. But it's sad because I do think that Sam Darnold will play better than everyone thought, and they'd be fine on the offensive side, but I just don't think the win-losses are going to correlate to the way that the offense is run. So it's tough, and it's tough that that's the only thing anyone's going to look at, but I do think that he's going to be perfectly fine in this.
Yeah. Now, even with JJ McCarthy, I know some that would have given me a slight bump just because of the rookie factor and the ability for this new mind for KOC to come in and mold. It would have given me a slight bump, but not. It would have been marginal. And I think people would have been disappointed because this defense, JJ McCarthy can't fix this defense. First of all, it's just so bad. Yeah. So I think they would have been in a similar spot even with JJ McCarthy healthy. Excuse me. But again, it's just with a rookie quarterback, there's so much to be excited about because he could be the next prodigy. It's just you kind of feel like the life sucked out of all of the Vikings fans just with the excitement coming in with the rookie quarterback. So I really feel for you guys. I really do. Trust me, we've all been there. So one day, I'm a believer in KOC, and I love the Vikings franchise. I think they do have a lot of good things going for them in the future, just not right now. So, okay, let's talk about the Bears. Let's talk about Caleb Williams and the Bears. They kind of revamped this team in its entirety. If you look at it from a skill players perspective, this team, the wide receiver core is completely different outside of DJ Moore. And of course, the QB room, you have Caleb Williams, one of the most highly touted quarterback prospects in years. So this team is really exciting to talk about. They still have some holes on defense, but they are stronger than they have been in the past, although it's not saying much when their defense is rated at the 31st and 29th overall defense in the league. But man, this is going to be a fun offense, I think. You have they brought in Keenan Allen, they drafted Rome Odunze, and of course they signed DJ Moore to a record deal. They also signed DeAndre Swift to come lead the backfield up. They also have Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson still back there as well, but they just got some playmakers for him right now. And I really do anticipate Caleb Williams having a great rookie year. How great? That'll be determined by him, and that's something we can discuss. But before I get into anything else, Beach, do you think that Caleb Williams could lead this Bears to a strong 2024 season, or do you think they're going to do, typical Bears stuff and end up at 3rd or 4th here in this division?
I mean, I think he'll lead them in the right direction. And I just don't like the boy's attitude at all. But he's a great quarterback. He's not Patrick Mahomes by any means, like people are comparing him to. But yes, I think he's a good quarterback, got a lot of weapons. I think that he makes some crazy plays. I think it's similar to the Vikings scenario here with the defense. Caleb Williams can't fix a defense. And I think that offensively, if they had the defense to match it, that this team can make some noise. But unfortunately, I don't think they're going to. I mean, they added Montez Sweat and Kevin Byard in the offseason. I don't think that's enough. And but I do think that there will be some fireworks on offense.
I do like the additions of Kevin Byard as well.
Yeah.
I forget that, they do have Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, and then of course they they traded for Montez Sweat near the end of last season. He came on and made an impact as well. And then they also have our boy Darrell Taylor. This defense is going to be kind of sneaky. It's going to be better than, what they have been in the past. But hey, like I said, it's not saying much when you had one of the worst defenses in the league, but I expect improvement for the defense, which is exciting because, we 100% expect improvement on the offensive side of the ball. And this is what people are most excited to talk about. They brought in Shane Waldron to be the offensive play caller. He was a former Seattle offensive coordinator. I am really excited because I am a believer in Caleb Williams. I'm not like one to like really harp on and complain about attitudes, do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't care. Paint your nails. I also don't care. If you can play ball, let's play ball. I'm here for it. And I think Caleb Williams can do that. And I think that having the support around him and Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze is so important. So important because you have DJ Moore, who's just a dynamic playmaker, and he's going to be kind of the focal point in the passing game. You have Keenan Allen, who I think was a great signing. I think he's not going to be as good as he has been in the past. I think he's older. But if you think about it, to have a guy like that come play with your rookie, a guy who's like just a vetted route runner and who knows ball better than any receiver out there as well, and a guy that so many other receivers in the NFL look up to, it's perfect. It's almost like having a coach and a player in one. So I think Keenan Allen signing is so big for this offense in multiple different ways, but most importantly into the development of Caleb Williams. And I think, of course, Rome Odunze is going to be a smash at the wide receiver spot for the Bears. I think he's going to end up, honestly, being in contention for the wide receiver 2 and even potentially the wide receiver 1 role by the end of the year. And I know that's a hot take because DJ Moore has been kind of came onto the scene as this Bears wide receiver 1, but don't sleep on Rome Odunze. I absolutely think, we could be talking about him leading this team in targets by the start of next year. So, lots to be excited about. I think they can make a splash here in this division. Looking at it, they have one of the easier strength of schedules in this division. It's around 6th to like 9th, depending on which way you grade and rate strength of schedule. But they have a path to double-digit wins, believe it or not. My ceiling for them is 10 wins, and my model actually has it 9.5 wins for the Bears. Their current win total is sitting at 8.5. They're not far behind the Packers at plus 325 to win this division as well. So Vegas is kind of high on this team. I actually have to say I'm over on the win total at 8.5 for this Bears team. Looking at their offensive, composition, and then looking at their schedule and kind of what my projections say, I'm over. I'm bullish on this team. I think they have a better chance of hitting their ceiling than they do hitting their floor. What do you think?
I'm at 8. I think there's always the, rookie hiccup near the beginning of the year. I don't know what their schedule looks like, if it's easier or harder at the beginning of the year, but, and we talk about all this with them having all their players and being no injuries, and there will always be injuries. So I've got them at 8. I think that they go under 8.5, and I think it looks good. It looks good, but they don't get all the way there this year. Rookie quarterback, new OC. They won't stay completely healthy the whole time. But I like your case. I do.
Thank you.
But I'm going 8.
I think that Caleb Williams could, ceiling performance in his rookie year, he could break Justin Herbert's record of 31 passing touchdowns in his rookie season. It would be something with 35, but I don't see that outside of the realm of possibility. Just because I think this team is going to be in a lot of shootouts. With the nature of how they're planning to play, at least from how we anticipate them based on how they constructed their roster, what type of offense they're going to run, the historic pattern of Shane Waldron, offensive coordinator, as well as his defense. I mean, they're going to be good, but it's not like they're going to be stalemating people left and right. I still think they're a ladder defense, they're bottom 16, but I see like more like lower 20s ranking based on of all projections and ratings and metrics. So they could find themselves in a lot of shootouts, and I think it's going to be a fun team to watch. Now, because I'm so heavy on the Packers and the Lions, I don't think they find their way within the top two of this division. But I do think they steal one from both the Lions and the Packers. Or they steal one from the Lions or the Packers this season, undoubtedly. I think they absolutely take one of those games and kind of like make a statement of like, hey, we're here. We're no longer the scum of this division. We're going to win. Our plan for the future is we're going to win, and we're absolutely coming. So, no pun intended. But I'm high on the Bears from a statistical perspective. I do think they're going to lose games that maybe they looked like they should have won or felt like they should have won because of those rookie pains. And then it's kind of like they're getting used. There's a lot of new talent on this team that hasn't like played with each other that much yet. So growing pains as well. But looking at this division and, some potential wins that they could steal, I think they could do it, man. I think they absolutely could do it. I think Caleb Williams is that good. So, all right, Beach. End of the show. You know the drill. 2024. Who wins this division with how many wins?
Oh, how many wins? I'm gonna go with the Lions with 13.
Okay.
You want the rest of you want my standings? Or not yet?
Sure. Yeah. Just give me the whole division.
I'm gonna go Lions. I'm gonna go Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bears.
Okay. Yep. I'm gonna go Packers, Lions, Bears, Vikings.
Good. I love it.
Packers at 12. Detroit at 12. But
Fair.
I still think that Packers get the nod here. Just because of the way the division played out. And then the Bears at 10. And then Vikings at 6, unfortunately. 5 or 6. So, bold prediction. Packers win this division. They surprise everybody. Jordan Love only gets better heading into this year. And they come out and shock everybody. So, guys, we appreciate you watching and tuning in for this show. This wraps up our division by division breakdown. Beach, thank you so much for doing this. I always love it every single year. Next week, we will have our big game breakdowns. Football season is finally among us. Make sure to tune in and watch those. We model each game each week. We have our projections, and then we talk about some of our favorite bets, whether they hit or not. Always up in the air. We have great weeks. We have bad weeks, but that's part of the fun. So make sure to tune in for that and join us. We always love it when you do. So best of luck, everybody. We will talk to you guys in the regular season.
Peace out.